Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Davidson Hang podcast. I'm excited to bring to you one of my favorite people at LinkedIn. She's amazing. She's a lot of fun. We have a lot of good time together, and we make good money. And we're making good money together at LinkedIn. So
That's right.
life is good. So I wanted to introduce you to Khamila Alebiosu. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Oh man, Davidson's awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Davidson. I am so excited to do this. Davidson and I, for those of you watching or listening, we've been talking about doing this podcast, this episode for a while, and so I'm so
Yeah.
glad we're finally making it happen. And
Yeah.
Davidson, you're just so awesome, and I love the energy you bring to anything we do. So I just hope today and whatever we talk about that I'm able to add value. But
Yeah.
my name is Khamila Alebiosu. For those of you who haven't met me, if you don't know me, I'm right in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. So I'm right in the Midwest. And not only do I work at LinkedIn with Davidson, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I help people develop online businesses, e-commerce platforms. I advise a couple startups out there as well in Chicago and in Detroit. And I'm passionate about mentorship as well. I mentor and coach a lot of different people when it comes to business, entrepreneurship, and just overall learning how to build wealth, learning how to develop leadership skills, learning how to be better. I'm all about become a better, what's your 2.0 version of yourself? How do we get there? So that's just a
Love
little bit
it.
about me. But obviously, I'm passing this over to you, Mr. Davidson. This is your podcast. So
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? I do think there's certain people you meet in life that just have that like extra spark, right? I think we connected from day one, when we met together, Kobe and Shaq, right? I remember
that's
that.
it. That's it. That's right. Right. Love it.
Yeah. And what I really enjoy about our conversations is that yes, like you're committed to your job. Obviously, like you perform well. You're a top performer and you do well there. But in addition to that, you experience like the full essence of life. I feel like and that's important because I do think sometimes we get too tied up into our careers and it's all we can think about, right? So if we have a bad month or bad quarter, especially us, most of us in sales, we're like, oh my God, my life sucks, right? But you have that perspective and the experience that like, hey, like because of who I'm being and the people that I'm mentoring and all the impact that I have in the world, one bad month or one bad quarter isn't gonna define me.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's such a great point. I think it just all comes down to mindset. There's having a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And when you have a growth mindset, which is a choice, it's not the easiest thing to have. And honestly, it's something that you have to be intentional about it consistently. You have to be consistently intentional about choosing to have a growth mindset. When you have a growth mindset, you lean into the adventure that is life. You lean into the ups and downs. You lean into how can I grow? It's not, if this didn't happen this way, then I guess I failed. It's what am I learning from this? And why did I need to go through that experience? Why did I need to fall on my butt? Why did I need to miss that quarter to learn what I need to learn to get to where I want to be? And I think when you remind yourself that life is a journey, it's an
Mm,
adventure, and leaning into the fun that is life. I think society, unfortunately, if you look at social media, it wants everyone to be so reactive. It wants
mm,
everyone to feel so defeated. It's like, oh, 2020 was a terrible year because of this and that. But for you, you got married, for you, new house. I mean, you had a great year. I know for me, I
yeah.
had a wonderful 2020.
Mm,
And it's not to say that some serious, traumatic things have happened and some very intense things have
mm,
happened, but it's all about perspective and how do you look at life? What's your attitude? What's your mindset? Because the
mm,
same attitude, the same person could go through the same situation as someone else, but
mm,
choosing to have a growth mindset, you come out of it just thinking better, and so I just always choose to look at any opportunity is a learning opportunity. There is no such thing as failure. And if you want to go there and say, well, no, failure is real, okay,
mm,
sure. But failure is an integral part of success, right? We've all heard about Thomas Edison and how, he had 10,000 tries to get to the light bulb or however many
mm,
tries or failed experiments. You could use that as an example, but it doesn't matter who you are. Steph Curry, LeBron James, all these amazing athletes, they've had to miss shots to learn how to get so great at their jump shot, right? So when you realize that failure, missing goals, and all that is an integral part of success, because you can learn from it, it makes you better. It builds your resilience. It builds your bounce back. It builds your muscle and your mindset. That's what you want to lean into, and that's a choice. Unfortunately, if you follow the media, and I'm a big, like, I like to talk about this a lot, the media wants you to be reactive, wants you to take anything that happens to you and just be afraid and to stop. Because if you stop going, if you stop achieving, if you slow down, who gets the benefit from you being reactive? A lot of people. Who gets the benefit from you letting, yourself slip into, poor mental health and emotional health and things like that, which are real. And I've overcome those things myself, which is why I can talk about it. There's so many industries out there that benefit from pain. And I've learned that, and I like to say this a lot, I heard this from one of my mentors: let the pain push you until your purpose pulls you. Lean into the pain. And when you find your purpose, maybe you haven't found it yet. I think when you find your purpose, it's very easy to have a growth mindset and keep it going, because the end of the movie, right? That you're gonna win. So anything's just, oh, this is just a little something trying to get in the way, but I already know I won. That happens when you know your purpose. But if you haven't found your purpose yet, it's okay. I think we have multiple purposes, but I think it's just choosing to find what makes me happy, what are my values, what's important to me, and choosing to remember that anything that happens to you, it's temporary. Even the good times are temporary. Anything, it's all temporary. And when you realize that, okay, let me lean into what makes me feel good and what makes me excited, what makes me optimistic, it makes you stronger, and that's how you keep going. And it's going to help you then find your purpose, because then you realize, okay, what are all the things that make me feel good and help me find that optimism, right? That's when you realize, okay, maybe my purpose isn't helping people. Maybe my purpose isn't, whatever, right? And being this kind of example or being this artist or whatever it is. And I find that once you get rock solid in knowing what you stand for and your purpose and your value system, it is so much easier to have that growth mindset and not get so reactive. And I hope I'm not harping too long on this, Davidson. I feel like I said this, I was asked to speak, was it last week or a couple weeks ago? And I talked about, having strong values and a positive attitude. Right now with in COVID-19 is a serious situation. I'm not at all minimizing that. And I don't want to be controversial here, unless Davidson's trying to go viral. Say something, but I said this, and I said, what's happening is serious. However, when you know who you are and you've seen your future and you visualize, like I've seen myself 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, I've seen myself make certain achievements. I already know that I'm going to do that. So I know that I'm not going to die anytime this year. I'm confident. I'm not saying I'm not being smart. I'm not saying I'm not protecting myself from being safe and all that. Not at all saying that, you should have disregard the safety regulations. However, you know your purpose, and you've seen your future, and you're very convicted in what you're able to do. Confidence, a lot of people have fake confidence out there, but do you have conviction? Are you bold in what you're supposed to achieve and what you see for yourself? When you have that, it's like, I just knew, I'm gonna be smart, I'm gonna do the right thing, I'm gonna wear a mask, but I'm not scared. I'm not afraid to live my life. Because I know that I've seen my purpose, and I have no reason to doubt that that's real, because it's real for me up here. So I know that it's going to come into fruition. It's getting to that point. And so that starts with finding your true purpose in yourself. And that's a journey that comes through a lot of self-discovery. I'm 29 years old, trust and believe. It took me years to love myself. It took me years to find my purpose. It took me years to define my values and know what I stand for. But I encourage that whoever's watching this or listening, if you lean into what makes you happy, find that optimism. Once you find what your values are, you're going to be rock solid. And you're going to find that it's easy to always get back up when things get tough, right? Hopefully that answered that. Hopefully this is adding value.
Yeah, no, that's so much gold you just shared there. I think many of us, I'm not saying, I would say the only thing I would add there is like you're talking about mainstream media, right? I
Mainstream.
think if you consume like, TED Talks and
Mhm.
more empowering media, right? I think that, like there's certain media that can lift you, like Tony Robbins, and there's certain like watching
Yeah.
things that like people are doing good in the world, right? And
Oh
then
yeah.
or like listening to Elon Musk or people who are innovating and changing the game, right? And
Absolutely.
then there's a 98% of the media that's like, like you said, trying to sell you ads, or they make money for the more viewers they have, right? Or the more reactive people get, the more people share the negative articles, they ultimately get clicks from it, right? Which ultimately leads to ad revenue,
Yeah.
right? But I think so many, because humans are innately in that fight or flight mode, many of us, right? Because our brains are still from like thousands of years ago.
Mhm.
So it's hard for us to like reframe and reprogram that brain. It
Mhm.
does require the effort and energy up front, like you said, but ultimately it pays off. Clearly it has for you, and for many of your mentees as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I like, so it seems like, so you are also a performer, right? And I do think that when we get to tap into our creative, our highest self, that's
Yeah.
when we're able to have magic and create beautiful works of art,
Mhm.
right? Do
Mhm.
you, so how does one tap into that like creativity more often, would you say?
For sure. Thank you for bringing this up, because even for myself, I'm still learning how to balance that, right? I'm still learning how to make more time for my personal, performance projects and my passion projects. And that's important. It's important to have that outlet. It's so important to be creative, because when things happen, you want to have healthy outlets for yourself. That's very important. I also think just art is such a beautiful way to express yourself in how you're feeling and your emotions, and turning it into something,
Mm,
turning pain into something that creates value. I think that's so
mm,
important. For me, I'm a performance artist, so I write spoken word,
mm.
and I love to perform. I'm a performance artist. Back in the day, I was a director of a student theater company in college. I've produced my own one-woman shows. If you do some Googling, you might find some really interesting YouTube videos out there that I put out there. But and I'm proud of that. I've grown more in my craft for sure, but
Mm,
I think it's so important to have that. And I'm passionate about the arts. One of my biggest dreams is to build performing arts schools, because I
mm,
think it's a great way to learn. I think it's a great way to empower people. It's also a
mm.
great way to teach culture and diversity. So many
Yeah.
cultures, rooted in it is music and dance and
Mm,
food and art and these great things where you're able to be creative. And there's something about
mm,
music, there's something about dance, there's something about film that can bring
mm,
so many different types of people together in a beautiful way, and it's
mm,
positive and we're learning. And I want to lean into that. I think there needs to be more of that. And so
mm,
that really excites me. And so for me, I make a habit out of consistently, and I'm working on getting more consistent. So I actually should say that. But, I want to be intentional about making time to write, making time to, perform. If it's just popping on an open mic every once in a while, or
mm.
even sometimes just roll it out with myself. Like sometimes you just got to like perform with you in the mirror just to make sure you
Huh.
still got it. You know what I mean? And that, right? There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. Whatever brings you joy, I think with art, with being creative, it can bring us so much joy. I wish I could draw.
Mm.
I wish I was a visual artist. You don't even want to see me try to write straight lines or draw straight lines. I can't color the line, none of that. I was never good at that. But I know that I have gifts in other areas, and choose to
Mm,
let those gifts flourish.
mm.
It hurts me. And a big reason why I want to build performing arts schools is I'm Nigerian. And I already know, I come from a culture. I was born in the States, if you can tell from my accent. But my parents, my dad being from Nigeria, the culture where it's like, you must, be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, or
Yeah.
disgrace to the family. Those were like the
Mm,
choices that you had, right? But
mm,
with that being said, people who were creative and artistic, not having that outlet where in schools those programs are the first ones to go. Even in the States, you
mm,
see a lot of times those are the first programs to go. And I feel that a lot of what helped me discover who I am, who got me comfortable, what got me comfortable with Khamila Alebiosu and being my authentic self and loving myself and
Mm.
finding joy and beauty in the things about me that maybe didn't fit, the social norms or what society was putting out there as what a beautiful woman looks like, or what skin tones were
Mm.
mostly celebrated. I fell in love with being the person I am today through
Mm.
theater, through writing, through performance. And I just know what it can do for so many other people. And so I'm passionate about making sure that more people have a platform to do that. Not only
Mm.
do I want to build schools, one of my biggest
Ah,
dreams is to have my own media entertainment company, producing my own film and television, creating a
mm.
platform for more people to tell their story. I also think through the
Yeah.
arts, there's so much storytelling that can happen in a fun, creative, inclusive way. But
Mm.
storytelling is important. Representation is important. I love that it's 2021. We're seeing a lot more of this. There's still a lot more
Yeah.
that can be done, and making sure that we're giving people that outlet and that platform to do it. We work with a social network, obviously working at LinkedIn, which is great. And so for me, I'm passionate about
Mm.
how do we merge these networks and these big platforms where there's hundreds of millions of people, right, to learn and see more of these stories in a fun, appropriate, but also inclusive way. And so
Mm.
that's really kind of where my passion goes. I'm more thinking about the business side of things now.
Mm.
And then obviously I try to leverage pockets of time to keep my craft up, keep my skill set up, in writing and poetry. And I think it's fun. I think it's a lot. I think it's beautiful. I admire so many people out there. I want to bring Def Jam poetry back.
Mm.
We got to bring it back. So we'll see. But I would love to really kind of, do something great there. That's also why, you know, that's also another reason why I'm an entrepreneur, right? Because I also am passionate about getting myself to a financial standpoint where I can maybe not have to work a 9 to 5 and have more time for
Mm.
these passions. I see a lot of people choose to settle. A lot of people choose to say, oh, well, I guess, that was only while I was in college. We got to be an adult now.
Mm.
We got to let go of these things. Or,
Mm.
maybe when I have time, maybe when I retire in my 60s, I'll do community theater or something, or I'll write that book. To
Yeah.
me, I know that I'm not even at my peak. I'm not even close to it. I'm only getting
Mhm.
better. And as I grow and as my mindset gets stronger and sharper and the things I want to give to the world, this is the prime time where I want to be able to really produce work and put it out
Mhm.
there. And so that's another
Mhm.
reason why I hustle. I encourage people, hey, hustle, make money, not a situation for you that can stop you from your dream and stop you from your passions.
Mhm.
Why? Why let it get in the way? I don't think money is evil. I think money is just a
Mhm.
tool. And it's a tool that also controls a lot of what we're able to do. And so, I like to me, I think money should be like air. Right now, Davidson, you've never thought, am I going to have enough oxygen today? Right? You
Mhm.
didn't think about it. You're not going to think about it tomorrow. You're going to wake up and breathe. And guess what? You're going to walk around freely, enjoy your day.
Mhm.
Imagine if finances were like that, where we just knew I'm good. I don't have to
Huh.
think about it. I can live my life freely. I can pursue my passions freely. I can take care of my family, expose my family to things, do all these great things freely. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's how do I get my money situation, my financial situation to be like air for me so that I have the freedom to really live my life the way that I want. And that's really that's what I'm all about. Yeah.
That's such an empowering way to look at finances because I think many of us ask the opposite question, right? It's like when's my next like why am I living paycheck to paycheck? Like there's a scarcity mindset, but I think like you said, most people think of money as evil. I mean,
Mm,
I did at one point too because I just didn't understand it, right? But then I started being curious and I started reading all these books and like you said, going meeting a lot of people like yourself who don't have that mindset. And then you start to say, okay, maybe money isn't evil.
right.
Like you said, I think it's just an extension of whatever you are, right? If you're into charity, you're into helping, orphans or whatever you're into, like it's just gonna be magnified.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I love that. You couldn't have said it any better.
Thank
Wow.
you. Appreciate it. I got a really great host on this podcast, so it's easy.
You're the best. And I recently have you ever heard of a guy named NQ? in Q?
No.
Oh, he's so good. He's a spoken word artist. Like
Okay.
he's like, you know, what like, and I was listening to just the beauty, and I started getting into it. And I was like, wow, like there's, man, people are so talented. There's so much talent out there, you know? And it's like, why doesn't media highlight more people like that, right?
Mm,
Other than like a lot of the negativity in the world. It's like, it's weird, right? It's like 90, I feel like 90% of media highlights all the bad stuff. But if we
mhm,
choose, well, what if the world was the other way around?
mhm.
It'd be so different, you know?
Right. It'd be
Yeah.
very different. I mean, that's a whole conversation. I think if you ever get a chance, have you read Outwitting the Devil by
Mm-mm.
Napoleon Hill? So
Mhm.
Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, Master Key to Riches, Laws of Success, has a book called Outwitting the Devil.
Mm.
Phenomenal read, and it's scary because this
Mm.
book was written in like the 1920s, 30s, like or maybe even earlier than that, maybe the 1910s, teens.
Mm.
And it's so relevant to now. Like I remember reading, and I'm like,
Mm.
he's talking about social media before social media was that. Like, how did he know
Wow.
that happened? And the book was actually banned. It was censored until like either 2001 or 2011. I just know it was in the
Wow.
2000s. And so he says, as you're reading the book, he's like, yeah, this is going to be so controversial. They're probably going to censor this. That you'll probably not believe this will probably never be published. He's saying it in the book,
Wow.
and I'm like, this would, and I'm bringing this up because he talks about all that.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to get religious or spiritual, but obviously he's talking about the devil, and he, for those of people who maybe aren't spiritual, he refers to it as, negative opposition, negative
Mm.
energy. There's that negative force that's always
Mm.
combating positive. And he
Mm.
talks about the whole book. He goes through how it pops up in media, how it's in our school system, how it's in the government. I know, like he really goes in on some stuff. And
Huh.
I agree with you that it's crazy because, a lot of positive things, it just doesn't get that spotlight.
Yeah.
I do think it comes back to, unfortunately, there's just so many institutions that benefit from other
Mm.
people's pain.
That's
There's just
true.
it's very sad, but when you really look into it,
Mm.
industries from pharmaceutical to food and what you
Yeah.
when you're sad, to you
Mm.
know just thinking about when somebody feels as a victim, when somebody is victimized, the choices that they make, how
Mm.
they give up a lot of their power because when you don't feel you can achieve, and you don't realize that you can be the change in your life,
Mm.
guess what? You stop going after certain things, and what that does is, unfortunately, it creates just so many disparities, so many inequality, gaps, because you have a pool of people that, because they don't see it within themselves, they're limiting themselves. So then you
Yeah.
have a very few that are actually in the top 1%, 2%, because is
Mm.
it that, and there is, to a point, systems and institutions that exist that keep certain people in the top 1%, 2%,
Mm.
let's just say in America, for example. However, there's also the added factor that a lot of the 98% does not believe or see themselves ever reaching the top 1%,
Uh,
which
yeah.
stops them from getting there. And you think about it, when you continue to replay these negative images and teaching people that you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a
Mm.
victim. It's always us against them. It's always us against them. You
Yeah.
stop trying. You stop shooting for the stars. And instead, you
Mm.
start to reshape what's your top 1% or 2%. It becomes different.
Mm.
You change what your dreams are. You shrink what you think you can achieve to match what you find is attainable based on the people
Mm.
you're around, based on your neighborhood,
Mm.
based on what you see other people who look like you do, rather than saying, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what I look like or who I am or my background or my name, I can still do that. I can
Mm.
still be the next whatever, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, all that. You can choose to be that next person, but most people, they don't get to that realization because
Mm.
they've heard over and over and over again that you can't, you're not
Mm.
enough, you're not good enough for this. They've
Yeah.
been told over and over again that they're a victim. And you have to, if you really look into it, that benefits a certain group of people if the
Mm.
masses don't believe that they can.
Mm.
Right. And it's, what do you say when you talk to yourself? That's another great book by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. What do you say when
Mm.
you talk to yourself? In that book, I remember he says that most people by the age, I can't remember what age it is, But as kids, they hear the word no, they hear some sort of rejection
Mhm.
over and over and over again. That it just, they stop, they already kind of get wired in, okay, they've been programmed as to what can I do versus what can't I do, even in schools, and how, A students are treated versus the C students and
Mhm.
lower. How do teachers even react and respond? There's been so many studies about that,
Yeah.
right? So there's so many factors. And you just talk about overall media and what they choose to showcase. I agree. I mean, I'd love to see more conscious, hip hop and poetry and more conscious artists be featured, that are socially conscious and
Mhm.
talking about real stuff and how to help people move forward. But there's so many, when you think about the mainstream and multiple audiences, negative is so, it sells, and it's very
Mhm.
sad that it sells. Pain sells.
Yeah.
You think about a lot of the biggest R&B artists, they keep you in your feelings. Even Drake made a whole brand off being in feelings, okay.
Yeah.
Right, it's all about being emotional, right?
Huh.
All about, I mean, there was a song called Young, Dumb and Broke, and people were
Yeah.
singing this, and I'm like, I would never, like, please don't say that, please don't sing that. Why would you speak
Huh.
that? And it's crazy when you think about it, but it's like, what shows?
Huh.
Maury and Jerry Springer, and people want to see all the baby daddy
Mm.
issues and drama. People want to
Huh.
see everybody fighting in Bad Girls Club and
Right.
Real Housewives pulling
Even
hair.
Cops is like one of the most popular. And that's,
Ops, right?
yeah, it's crazy.
So people love to see drama. And here's the other thing is,
Mm.
people victimize themselves, and then people love, especially the middle class, love
Mm.
to look at people who they think are inferior to them. And that, so it,
Mm.
and here's, I heard someone say this: if you ever feel that you're inferior to someone else, it's because you think you're superior to someone else. So when you truly love yourself and you have that
Mm.
conviction in you and have a high self-image and know, I can, that you can do all things, you don't have any superiority, inferiority complex about anything. You believe
Mm.
people are equal. You believe it is their choice, their decision to where they want to become in life. Yes, are there
Mm.
systems and things out there, but you know the power of the human being and the human mind and
Mm.
faith to achieve, right? And so you don't look at people as better than you or not as good as
Mm.
you. And I find that people who are insecure get really into that
Huh.
superiority complex. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that has a lot to do why, like, middle class folks who want to maybe watch people from certain neighborhoods, certain areas, and really laugh and poke at, I'm not going to
Huh.
say names, but we've all seen like the Honey Boo Boos and all that stuff out there, and
Mm.
how people kind of talk about it and laugh at that. It's very
Huh.
interesting. It's very interesting, and it perpetuates stereotypes, and it's very, very interesting to me. But I think it comes down to why me, as someone who wants to produce my own media, right? Why I think it's important that I do that. Why I think it's
Mm.
important that I'm telling stories that are positive. They're real. They're going to be authentic. I'm not going to, I really believe in showcasing healing, because that's something that gets
Mm.
overlooked. If you watch certain movies, it's like, cool, they went through something and, oh, great, now life is great. No, there's a healing process. It takes time to overcome yourself and conquer yourself.
Mm.
I want to make sure I show things like that, but I also want to really show that overcoming, show that success,
Mm.
show people talking about something real, show real challenges, real struggle, but also reinforce the power that is within us. That is so
Mm.
important. That's like my biggest message. That's one of the biggest things I always want to share with people is you have everything that it takes. It's all within you.
Mm.
Just have a faith, just believe, and you actually can change your life. And it's, don't let anyone, anything that you see stop you from believing that, because there's so much that can remind you that you can't, but guess what? You can. It's within you. You can do it. And hopefully that was like a long-winded. I know I feel like my answers have all been like super long-winded, but hopefully this is adding value.
No, it's so your gold. Like you essentially were able to summarize like 1,000, 100, I would say 10,000 hours of self-development books in very in in this amount of time,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. I think
Thank
you summarized a lot of what people pay a lot of money to go to, like a lot of these seminars and these
you.
I've probably spent like $30,000 on a lot of these like seminars and all that I and you're able to very clearly communicate that. So I'm very impressive, actually. Yeah.
So I thank you for telling me that I should be charging you for this podcast right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Seriously. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much for having me. And if possible, I'd love to just kind of tell people where they can find me.
Mm.
Follow me on Instagram. If you thought anything that I said today made sense or felt like I was interesting, feel free to follow me on Instagram. I actually do lives where I talk about
Mm.
stuff like this just because. So I love to do random lives on Instagram. My Instagram is literally my name, Khamila. I spell Khamila Khamila dot Alebiosu, ALEB as in boy, IOSU. So it's just at Khamila.Alebiosu. That's my Instagram handle. That's also like my name on LinkedIn. That's my name on Facebook, right? YouTube, anything. So definitely follow me. And I would love to, speak with you. If anyone also had more questions about my business, the sort of business mentorship that I do, just know I actually don't charge people I don't charge for mentorship or coaching. It's just something I'm passionate about because, like I said, it's within you. You want to change your life. You have to actually change your life, but you can do that. You can control that, right? And so, really helping people get there. I actually work with folks, and I don't charge to actually mentor them and help them finding themselves and actually helping them learn how to become an entrepreneur. So, if you just wanted to meet with me or have a consultation, hit me up. But yeah, follow me on Instagram.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I'm glad. I'm sure. Yeah, I'll link to all of your social medias, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, and all that, and then people can connect with you on that as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks again, once again, for having me, Davidson. Like I said, guys, hopefully I didn't scare anybody. Hopefully I didn't say anything too crazy,
Nah,
but
you're
it's been a
good.
joy being on this podcast. Seriously, Davidson is the best. And if you're following him, if you're listening to his podcast, you already know he's such a motivational person. He's so positive. And that's why we clicked because he's
Yeah.
somebody who, he's so optimistic. And when you meet someone else who is a dreamer and is a visionary and
Mhm.
just believes in good and wants to do good and share it with others, you just instantly connect. You just instantly connect. And that's how we felt. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate you, Davidson. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah. Well, hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thank you so much for your wisdom and just for being an awesome friend and just so understanding and compassionate. And I mean, clearly, you're helping a lot of people achieve their goals and their dreams. So, I really respect that. So, really appreciate the good that you're doing in the world.
Thanks, Davidson. Appreciate it. Bye, guys. At Khamila Alebiosu. Follow me.